Today, I want to tell you a story. It happened about 4 years ago, and I haven't told many people, so thanks for being here and listening to me. I walked up to the counter, checked in, and sat down. I filled out some forms and waited for my name to be called. I was so nervous. I played with the little Zen sand garden on the table as I waited for my name to be called, and then I headed back down the long hallway. I don't think I stopped feeling nervous until I sat down in the therapist's chair, and I was finally confident that this was the right decision for me. When I was a freshman in college, school was hard, and it was taking a toll on me. So therapy was a barrier that I needed to remove for myself. I decided to make an appointment at the University of Minnesota's Mental Health Center on campus. And by a barrier, I mean something that limits our thinking or prohibits our ability to succeed in some way. So therapy, I was really terrified about. I thought people would think that I was weird, and honestly, I thought it was something that your parents did when they had marital issues. And sadly, I thought I was totally and completely alone. But as it turns out, that wasn't the case at all. About 1 in 4 college students in the United States have a diagnosable mental health disorder. Let's think about that number for a little bit. That's 25% of all college students across the United States. It turns out college wasn't just hard for me, it was hard for a lot of people. And here's the moment when I knew something was going wrong. October came quickly that year, and so did my first midterm in calculus. I ended up getting a C. I was so embarrassed, and I thought that because I had taken high school calculus, that I would breeze through college-level calculus with ease. But as it turns out, college is really hard, and nobody really tells you that. You just kind of have to figure that out on your own. And whether or not I wanted to, I figured that out pretty early on. I knew this was not how it was supposed to be. I thought I was supposed to go to parties and meet my friends and find some cute boys, but that's not at all how my experience was. And I didn't even go to those parties because I was studying, and I thought that because I was studying, I would do well on the next midterm, right? Wrong. Actually, I didn't do well on any of my tests that year. My GPA for the year was under a 3.0. And as someone who was successful in high school, I thought of myself as an utter failure. And it was taking a toll on me. I cried a lot, and I didn't even want to go to class. So I was glad I got the help that I needed. And to those sitting in the audience who believe that your mental or emotional state is prohibiting your success in some way, maybe it's time to break down that barrier you have about getting help. It's not weird, and it can make a difference. And even if you think that your life is going completely wrong, you're at rock bottom, and nothing will ever get better, I want to tell you that that's not true. If I hadn't gotten the help I needed, I definitely wouldn't be up here standing today. And even though therapy was helping break down some of the barriers, I still had some personal issues that I was dealing with. So I decided to study abroad. Yep, I literally wanted to run away from my problems. So January of 2014, I packed my bags and headed to London. I was so excited. And as a part of this experience, I got to take part in an unpaid internship at a company called WizKids. WizKids is a company that provides wheelchairs to youth in the UK who maybe can't afford them or don't have the ability to get a customized one. As I soon learned, a wheelchair is more than just a wheelchair. It often has to be highly customized and tailored to the user's needs. So what does that mean? Maybe there's different tires on the wheelchair to handle different types of terrain, or there's a control pad for communication. And anything that I had learned about wheelchairs was through movies. We all know movies don't get everything right all the time. So as someone who is able to walk, I had no idea the different challenges that people in wheelchairs face in different situations. I was ignorant, and that was the second barrier I needed to remove for myself. Luckily, that barrier started to crumble pretty early on because the CEO of the company that I worked for was also in a wheelchair. She did not let this hinder her ability in any way. She was a powerful woman with a great deal of influence. And because of that, I started noticing some of the smaller things around the city. Something that, as someone who can walk, I was able to do easily, but who someone in a wheelchair might not be able to. Take, for example, the tube in London. It's great for transportation, and it allows you to get anywhere you need. But there's often a step up from the platform into the train. That's why they literally remind you every 2 minutes to mind the gap between the train and the platform. British accent not included. And this jump is no problem for me, but someone in a wheelchair often needs a flat surface to get into the train. And that's almost the case for 0 of the tube stations in London. And I thought that was a problem. So I invite you today to remove the barrier that you have of blissful ignorance. Start noticing things that are easier for you than for someone else. Let's start now. For example, today, I walked in and I noticed there was only one wheelchair accessible entrance. And that happens. It's important that we notice these things because we may not be able to help right away, but if we tell someone about it, it can ensure that they will help, and so on and so on. So when I came back from London, I had seen the world, well, Europe, and I decided I was ready to make my own difference in the world. However, I needed a year or two to figure that out. When I was a senior in college, I enrolled in a class called Entrepreneurship in Action. The goal of the class was to start your own company. You were responsible for everything, from accounting to marketing to sales to operations, everything you could possibly think of. And half of those things I didn't know how to do. But this year-long class was open to anyone in the University of Minnesota. This is the idea where Nesel Packs came from. Nesel Packs is a company that I helped create, and the product we sell is the world's first sensory-friendly backpack, made exclusively for children and adults with autism. I didn't always love school, but I believe in equality for all, so I made it work for me, and I believe others should have the chance to make it work for them. So how can the Nesel Pack help someone at school? Let's take a look. I have one up here with me. Our first feature is these specially designed straps. They wrap around you and feel like a hug. You can also add weights on the inside of the backpack. This allows for a different feel of personalization, because the goal of the product is a comfortable bag that's durable and also has a touch for personalization. And students with autism might not love school because oftentimes they have different needs than us. And people sometimes don't understand the needs of people with autism. And some of those needs may be you're in a bright hallway with lots of people, someone brushes up against you, that can be really overwhelming to the senses. And it's not just kids. I talked to parents too, and they all said that the hardest part of getting their kid ready for school was just that. It was difficult, and it took a really long time. So I created this product to ease or remove the barrier of going to school. We need to get rid of the idea that people with autism are weird. They're not weird, they're just different than us. And there's a lot of stigmas that surround autism and other disabilities, and that's just not okay. So we need to rethink how we think about disabilities and maybe try to remove those barriers. Maybe it's because we don't understand people with different disabilities, and that's okay. It's important that we recognize that. So that brings me to the challenge that I bestow upon you. Today I shared 3 stories, one about a personal barrier, a barrier I didn't know existed, and something I did to break down a barrier. Now it's your turn. I want you to break down a barrier. Think about something in your life that makes you uncomfortable. Why does it make you uncomfortable? Is it because of something in your past or something that society has an opinion about? Come up with a solution and implement it. Ask your friends and families for ideas on how to do so. And come up with this and have them hold you accountable for keeping your solution in place. Because by breaking down these barriers, we can then fully begin to appreciate the differences that life has to offer. Thank you.